3 moons hung over the junkyard like cold eyes. Wind ran through the metal ribs of broken ships and sang a thin, lonely song. Between piles of scrap and dead engines, a small figure hid behind a dented starboard wing. Her skin was crystal blue. In the dark, it looked like glass with a faint light inside. Her name was Lyra. She held her breath and counted 1, 2, 3. Footsteps scraped on the gravel. A man's laugh rolled over the junkyard fence. It was rough and empty. Lyra knew that laugh. She knew the smell that followed it too. Cheap drink, bitter and sour, even in clean air. Her stepfather, Darren, was coming with people she did not know. Lyra pressed her back to the cold metal. She tried to make herself small, as if she could fold into the shadow. Her fingers shook. The tiny glow in her veins pulsed a little faster, like a frightened heartbeat. She whispered to herself, "Stay unseen. Stay quiet." It was a prayer she had learned when she was very young. The fence creaked. Heavy boots kicked through garbage. Bottles clinked in a bag. There were 3 of them, maybe 4. A flick of a match painted brief orange on rust and bone-thin weeds. The flame lit Darren's face. His eyes were restless. His cheeks were hollow. He looked like a man who had traded too many things for too many bottles. "Where is she?" one of the strangers asked. His voice had a hiss in it like a cracked air pipe. He was not human. Lyra saw a long nose ridge and a split lip, tattooed with gang marks in black ink. "She's around," Darren said. "Skittish. Always running." He laughed again. "But I know this place better than she does." Lyra closed her eyes for half a second. She remembered another night. She remembered her real father's laugh, warm, safe like a blanket. She remembered her mother's hands, soft and careful as they tied a bracelet of wire around Lyra's wrist. "You are light," her mother had said. "You are our small star." Those memories were thin now, worn by time and hard days. But they were still there, still hers. Metal scraped. Darren kicked the wing she hid behind. The entire plate shuddered. Lyra bit down on a gasp. She did not move. She tried to breathe less than a leaf. "Lyra!" Darren sang. "Don't be rude. Come out and say hello to our guests." Silence. Somewhere in the junkyard, a loose panel clacked against a post. The night seemed to hold its breath with her. "All right," Darren said, and she could hear his grin. "We'll do this the easy way." The panel jerked back. Light burst across her eyes. Hands grabbed her shoulder and collar. She kicked hard. She twisted sideways. But Darren was strong even when drunk, and the others were sober, and fear made her smaller than she was. They pulled her into the open. Dust stung her nose. The moons looked sharp and mean. "There she is," Darren said. "Pretty little problem." One of the strangers stepped close. He wore a leather coat with metal studs. His eyes were silver coins, bright and empty. He looked Lyra up and down like a piece of meat on a rack. "Half-blood," he said. "Human bones, alien skin. Good price for her kind these days. Off-world buyers pay double. Triple," Darren said. His voice shook. He tried to stand tall. "She's special." "Everyone says that," the silver-eyed man replied. He turned to his friend. "Give him the bottle." The second man, a thin alien with limber fingers, pulled a dark flask from his coat. The smell hit Lyra's face like a slap. The bottle was full. Darren reached out like a starving dog. The silver-eyed man held it away from him. "First," he said, "you hand her over." Lyra's breath went short. She looked at Darren, waiting foolishly, still hoping. Maybe he would take her hand. Maybe he would say, no. Maybe he would remember a promise he had never said out loud but should have made. "I will protect you." Instead, Darren looked at the black mouth of the bottle. A tremor passed through his whole body. Whatever was left of kindness in him bent and cracked. He shoved Lyra forward. "Take her," he said. "A deal's a deal." Lyra stumbled. The silver-eyed man caught her arm. His grip was cold. He smelled like old oil and rust. He turned her face left, then right. "She'll bruise," he said, annoyed. "Buyers don't like damage." "You're hurting me," Lyra said, and her voice sounded small. He didn't let go. "Wait," another voice said. It was low and flat like a word spoken by the ground itself. It came from the edge of the junkyard beyond the fence where the shadows were blackest. "Let the girl go." Everything stopped. The wind quieted. Even the loose panel on the post held still. A human man stood there. He wore a dark field coat with dust on the shoulders. His hair was close cut. A thin scar ran from his temple to his jaw, pale against brown skin. He held no weapon in his hand, not yet. but he carried himself like a weapon. His eyes were steady and awake. "Who are you?" the silver-eyed man asked. "Someone who doesn't like the smell of this," the newcomer said. He walked forward and set a heavy badge on a broken engine block. Metal met metal with a solid clink. In the moonlight, letters flashed, Colony Defense Corps. Darren went very still. "Officer," he said quickly with a crooked smile that showed bad teeth. "Just a misunderstanding, family business." The newcomer's gaze moved to Lyra. It softened very slightly. "Are you hurt?" Lyra swallowed. There was a taste of blood at the back of her throat. She nodded once, then shook her head because she did not know which answer was safer. "Take your hands off her," the man said to the silver-eyed stranger. The silver-eyed man smiled in a thin line. "This is legal enough," he said. The stepfather agreed to a sale. "We're just traders. If you want a cut, you should have said so earlier." The newcomer stepped closer. Up close, his badge name was readable. Reed. He did not smile. "You can't sell a person," he said. "On Erathis," the silver-eyed man replied. "You can sell anything you can carry." Reed's eyes did not leave Lyra's. "Not tonight," he said. The thin alien with the limber fingers moved first. He raised a short stun blade. It crackled with blue lines. Reed's right hand dropped to his hip. Light flared. The crack of the plasma sidearm rolled across the junkyard like thunder. The stun blade flew out of the alien's hand. It hit the fence and stuck there, hissing like an angry snake. The silver-eyed man shoved Lyra away and lunged toward Reed. The third stranger pulled a club from his belt. Darren backed up, hands out, muttering, "Hey now, hey now." Reed fired again, fast and precise. The club shattered. Metal chips sprayed the ground. The silver-eyed man ducked behind a stack of panels. "You think you can shoot us all," he yelled. "You'll run out of charge." "Maybe," Reed said, "but you'll run out of courage first." The wind returned. It carried dust and the hot scent of the gun. Lyra crawled behind an engine block. Her heart pounded high in her throat. She peered around the edge. Reed moved like he knew this place better than all of them. He pushed off a rusted beam, slid across open ground, and took cover behind a long cylinder full of dead fuel. His breathing never changed. The thin alien with empty hands reached for Lyra's ankle. She jumped and kicked, heel catching his jaw. He hissed. Reed turned and shot the ground between them. Sand popped and jumped from the heat. "Touch her again," Reed said, "and you'll spend the night counting your teeth." The silver-eyed man spat. "She's worth a lot to us," he said. "More than you know." "Then that's a problem for you," Reed said. He rose quick and came over the cylinder with his sidearm pointed down. The silver-eyed man froze. Reed kicked his weapon away. "Leave," he said. "Leave the bottle. Leave your pride. Take your lives." For a long breath, no one moved. The gang leader looked at Reed, looked at Lyra, looked at the badge again. He swallowed hard. His eyes flicked to Darren. "You sold us trouble," he snapped. He jerked his head at his friends. "We're done here." They slipped out through the hole in the fence they had made, fast and quiet now, their courage already running thin in the night. The wind filled the space where they had been. Darren stood alone, shifting from foot to foot. He licked his lips. "Officer Reed," he said, trying for calm. "You didn't have to do that. I was just teaching her a lesson. She's not easy." He spread his hands. "You know how these alien ones are." Reed looked at him for a long moment. Whatever he thought did not show on his face. He holstered the sidearm. Then he turned to Lyra and held out his hand. "Can you stand?" Lyra did not move at first. She had learned the cost of hands held out in the dark. But Reed's hand was steady, palm up, fingers loose, not a grab, an offer. She put her small blue hand in his. He lifted her gently. Up close she could see the tiny nicks on his knuckles, the clean lines of his coat, the small tear on his sleeve where a nail had caught it. He was not shining or perfect. He looked tired, like someone who had been fighting for a long time and had not always won. But his eyes were alive. When he looked at her, he saw a person, not a problem. "My name is Reed," he said. "I'm with the Colony Defense." "Lyra," she said. "Hi, Lyra," he said. He glanced at Darren. "Is this man your guardian?" Darren laughed like a knife scraping a plate. "Guardian? She's a waste. Eats and cries and runs, that's all she does." Reed's jaw tightened. "She's a child." "She's a mistake," Darren said, and there was a deep, ugly pleasure in saying it out loud. Her mother ran off with traders. Left me with this thing. What was I supposed to do? I can't feed a mistake. The sound of the hover transport filled the night, soft and steady like a heartbeat. Inside the cabin, blue lights glowed along the dashboard. Lyra sat quietly in her seat, wrapped in a gray blanket that felt too big for her small frame. Her eyes stared at the stars through the glass, but her mind was far away, back in the junkyard, back with the sound of her stepfather's laugh and the way he said, "She's nothing." Reed glanced at her from the driver's seat. He didn't speak. He had seen that look before, the look of someone who had learned not to hope too fast. The transport hummed through the empty roads of the colony's outskirts. Towers of metal bone stood against the moons like broken teeth. The silence between them was deep but not cruel. For Lyra, it was the first silence that didn't come with fear. After a long time, she asked softly, "Where are we going?" "To my ship," Reed said. "You'll be safe there. Medical scanners, clean food, no one can hurt you." She nodded but didn't smile. "Safe," she repeated like she was trying to understand the word. Reed kept his eyes forward. "Do you have anyone else? Any family?" "My mother," Lyra said. Her voice trembled a little. "She left long ago. People said she went with humans, traders. Maybe she died. Maybe she didn't want me." Reed's hands tightened on the controls. "Mothers don't stop wanting their children," he said quietly. "Sometimes the world just gets in the way." Lyra didn't answer. The human ship, the Ardent Dawn, waited at the edge of the city. It was not big, just a patrol cruiser scarred from old missions, but it was clean, alive, and strong. When they entered the docking bay, a soft light washed over them. Metal doors sealed behind the transport with a deep echo. A medical droid floated toward them, its voice calm and polite. "Captain Reed, you have sustained minor bruising. The child displays elevated stress and dehydration." "She's not a child," Lyra said quickly. "I'm 16, Reed almost smiled. 16 counts as a child when you've been through what you have." He motioned to the droid. "Help her first." The droid guided Lyra into the medbay. The walls shimmered white-blue and screens showed slow waves of data: pulse, temperature, oxygen. The droid placed a soft patch on her neck, and cool energy spread through her. "It will heal the small wounds," the droid said. Lyra touched the patch and felt warmth returning to her fingers. For the first time in days, she didn't feel hungry. Reed stood near the door, arms crossed. His coat was still torn from the fight. "You'll rest here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow I'll contact the authorities. We'll file a report against your stepfather." Lyra looked down. "He'll just laugh. He always finds a way to make it look like I'm lying." Reed's eyes hardened. "He won't this time. You have me now." Her gaze lifted slowly to meet his. There was something steady in his voice that made her believe, even if only a little. Later that night, Reed sat alone in the control room. The stars hung outside like silent witnesses. He scrolled through files, checking names, missing person reports, old records. He searched for Lyra's mother. Nothing clear appeared. Just fragments. Subject of interspecies study. Lost in border conflict. Presumed deceased. Reed rubbed his face with one hand. "Damn," he muttered. He wasn't supposed to get involved. The Defense Corps had rules: you save, report, move on. But he had already crossed that line. When he looked at Lyra, he didn't just see another rescued civilian. He saw his daughter years ago who had died during a border evacuation he couldn't reach in time. He whispered to the stars, "Not again." The next morning, Lyra woke to the soft hum of machines. Her cuts had closed. The bruises were fading fast. She walked to the main deck, following the smell of something warm. Reed stood near the food station, pouring synthetic coffee. "You sleep well?" he asked. "Yes," she said. Then, after a pause, "It feels strange. Quiet." "Quiet's good," Reed replied. "Means nobody's chasing you." But before she could answer, an alarm blinked red across the console. Reed's eyes snapped up. "Motion sensors," he said. "We've got company." He ran to the monitor. 3 small signals were approaching from orbit. Old smuggler ships, no transponders. Lyra's breath caught. "Them? Most likely," Reed said. He activated the defense shields. "They want what they couldn't buy." The ship shook as a blast hit the outer hull. Lyra stumbled. Reed caught her arm and pulled her into the command seat beside him. Hold tight, he said. We're not giving them an easy target. The ardent dawn lifted, engines roaring. Through the window, the desert turned into a whirl of dust. Plasma fire cut across the sky like blue lightning. Reed twisted the controls, dodging the first barrage. Lyra watched, heart pounding. Why are they doing this? Because someone told them you're valuable, Reed said. And when greedy men hear that, they stop thinking. Another hit shook the ship. Reed slammed a button. Counterfire burst from under the hull. The lead smuggler ship veered away, smoking. But two others closed in faster now. Can we run? She asked. We can try. The ardent dawn sped toward the canyons, tall red cliffs cutting through the desert. Plasma bolts followed, streaking the air with light. Inside the cabin, Reed's focus never broke. They're not giving up, he said. Whoever they work for, they're determined. Work for? Lyra asked. He didn't answer right away. I think your stepfather told them more than he should have. Her chest tightened. He sold me for a drink. What else could he sell? Reed's mouth pressed into a hard line. Anything. The second ship fired again. A blast hit the rear thrusters. Sparks rained across the deck. Reed swore under his breath. We've lost stabilizers. He turned the ship downward, aiming for the canyon floor. The ardent dawn scraped across the sand, slammed once, twice, then slid to a stop behind a wall of rocks. Smoke hissed from the vents. Reed checked her quickly. You hurt? She shook her head. No, you? I've had worse landings, he said with a small grin. Then serious again, we can't stay here. They'll land too. Through the cracked viewport, they could see the smuggler ships descending like vultures. Reed grabbed a pack of supplies and handed her a blaster. Stay close. Don't fire unless I tell you. Lyra took the weapon with trembling hands. I've never used one. Let's hope you won't have to. They climbed out into the canyon's heat. The sand shimmered gold. Above them, ships landed with a roar of engines. Reed led the way between jagged rocks. His eyes kept moving, reading every shadow. They stopped near an overhang. We wait, he said. Minutes later, footsteps echoed off the canyon walls. Voices, alien, harsh, confident. She's here, one said. The half-blood girl. Bring her alive. Lyra's stomach twisted. She gripped the blaster. Reed leaned close, whispering, If they find us, run toward the ridge. Don't stop, she looked at him. You'll follow? He nodded. Always. But when the smugglers rounded the corner, there was no time for plans. Plasma bolts ripped through the air. Reed fired back, fast and calm. The canyon filled with light and echoes. One of the smugglers shouted, You can't save her, human. She's worth more than you are. Reed ducked behind a rock. You'll have to test that theory. Lyra crouched low. Fear burned in her chest, but under it was something else. Anger, sharp and alive. She saw Reed's arm bleeding where a shot grazed him. She saw him still standing, still protecting her. When a smuggler came close, reaching for her, she felt heat rise in her palms. A soft blue light burst from her skin, bright, blinding. The smuggler screamed, dropping his weapon. His wounds sizzled, not burned but healed instantly. He fell to his knees, stunned. Reed turned, astonished. Lyra, what was that? I don't know, she said, panting. It just happened. The others hesitated, whispering in fear. She's one of them, one hissed. The Lightborn, Reed's eyes widened. He had heard the name, a species long thought extinct. Beings who could channel life energy to heal or destroy. He looked at Lyra again, at the glow fading from her hands. You're not just special, he said softly. You're rare. The smugglers pulled back, scared now. But their leader, a tall alien with silver eyes and a shouted, Don't stop! She's worth a fortune. Reed fired once more, hitting the rocks above. Dust fell like rain. Not to me she isn't, he said. She's not for sale. The smugglers retreated, carrying their wounded. But Reed knew they'd return with more. He turned to Lyra. We have to move before they regroup. She nodded, still shaking. You were hurt, she said, pointing to his arm. He looked down. The wound was deep red, spreading under the sleeve. Just a scratch. She reached out, pressing her glowing hand gently against it. The light flowed again, soft and warm. The wound closed. Reed stared at his arm, speechless. You healed me, he said. I didn't mean to, she whispered. It just happened when I wanted you not to hurt. He smiled faintly. Then maybe that's your strength. They continued deeper into the canyon toward the mountains. The sun rose higher, painting everything in gold and blood red. As they walked, Lyra asked quietly, Will they keep coming? Yes, Reed said, until we make them stop. or until we find someone who knows what you really are." She looked at him. "And if we can't? Then we make our own way," he said simply. That night they built a small camp near an old mining tunnel. Reed sat sharpening his knife, eyes always scanning the horizon. Lyra sat across the fire, watching the flames dance. After a long silence, she said, "You didn't have to save me. You could have left." Reed looked at her. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Someone I couldn't save once. Maybe this is my second chance." The desert slept under a red dawn. Wind moved through the canyons like a slow breath, carrying dust and whispers. Reed and Lyra stood near the old mining tunnel, eyes fixed on the 3 ships circling above them. Their engines glowed faint orange, their shadows sliding across the rocks like beasts hunting in silence. Lyra's hands trembled. She could still feel the warmth of her strange light under her skin, the same light that had healed Reed. It pulsed faintly now, waiting, restless. She didn't understand it, but she could feel it growing stronger. Reed crouched beside her, checking the charge in his sidearm. His expression was calm, but his jaw was tight. "They'll land soon," he said. "We can't outrun them this time." Lyra looked up. "Then what do we do?" "We make them believe we're not worth chasing," he said. "Or we make them too scared to try again." She bit her lip. "You mean we fight?" Reed nodded once. "If we must." For a moment neither spoke. The sun began to rise, painting everything in gold. The ships landed in the open valley, dust swirling around their landing legs. Doors hissed open. Figures stepped out, armored smugglers, faces hidden behind masks. And in the middle of them walked a man she knew too well, her stepfather, Darren. Her stomach turned cold. He looked different now, thinner, older, eyes sunken. But that cruel smile was still the same. He carried no weapon, only a bottle in one hand. "You thought you could hide her, Captain?" he shouted across the canyon. "She's not yours to keep." Reed stood slowly, facing him. "You sold her for a drink," he said. "Now you brought an army to finish what you started?" Darren laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. "You don't understand, do you? She's valuable. The scientists will pay in gold. Her blood can heal, they say. Her light can fix anything. Planets, people, imagine that." He raised the bottle, shaking it. "I could buy 100 worlds with what she's worth." Lyra's throat tightened. "You're still drunk," she said, voice shaking. "You'll never stop." He looked at her, his grin fading into something hollow. "You think I care what you think, girl? You were never my daughter." Those words burned worse than any wound, but before she could speak, Reed stepped between them. His tone turned cold, steady. "You had your chance to be a father. Now you'll face a soldier." The smugglers moved forward. Reed fired the first shot. Plasma bolts cut through the morning light, turning dust into fire. The canyon echoed with chaos. Shouts, footsteps, the hiss of engines powering up. "Stay behind me," Reed called. Lyra ducked behind a rock, heart hammering. The air filled with light and sound. Reed fought like he had been born for it. Precise, fast, brave. But there were too many of them. For every one he dropped, 2 more advanced. Then she saw it. Darren picking up a blaster from the sand, aiming at Reed's back. "Reed!" she screamed. Reed turned too late. The blast hit him in the shoulder, spinning him backward. He fell hard, the weapon flying from his hand. "Captain!" Lyra ran to him, sliding to her knees. His coat was burned through, blood seeping through the cloth. He tried to speak, but only a breath came out. Something inside Lyra snapped. Not in anger, but in heartbreak. She pressed her hands over his wound, and the light came again. Brighter this time. It poured from her palms like living fire, washing over his body. The air hummed. The dust lifted. Reed gasped, his wound closing before her eyes. The light spread, spilling across the ground, reaching the rocks, the sand, the sky. The smugglers stopped, staring. "What is she?" one whispered. Lyra stood slowly, her whole body glowing. Her skin shimmered like crystal. Her hair caught the sunlight and turned to silver. The wind rose around her. "Stop!" Darren shouted. "Don't shoot her!" "She's worth more alive." But it was too late. The light surged outward, gentle yet powerful. It touched every living thing in the valley. Wounds closed. Broken machines sparked back to life. The desert flowers, long dead, began to bloom between the rocks. The smugglers dropped their weapons, shielding their eyes. The heat wasn't burning them. It was healing them, cleansing everything it touched. Reed rose slowly beside her, watching in awe. "Lyra," he said softly, "you're saving them. Her voice echoed strange and calm. No one deserves pain forever. The light reached Darren last. He stumbled backward, falling to his knees. His bottle slipped from his hand. He looked up at her, at the daughter he had thrown away. For a second his face cracked open, showing something like regret. "I didn't mean," he started, voice breaking. Lyra looked down at him. "You always meant it," she said quietly. "But I forgive you anyway." The light touched him, not burning, not killing, only showing him what he had become. Tears ran down his face as the glow faded. He covered his eyes and wept. When it was over, the sky was clear again. The ships lay quiet, their engines dead. The desert shimmered with new life. Lyra's glow dimmed, her strength spent. She swayed, falling, but Reed caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he whispered. "You did enough," she smiled weakly. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "You didn't," he said. "You reminded them what life feels like." He carried her back toward the transport wreck. Behind them, the smugglers rose slowly, silent, dazed. No longer enemies, just witnesses to something they could not explain. Darren sat alone, staring at his empty hands. Hours later, a rescue shuttle from the colony arrived. Reed signaled it with a flare. As medics carried Lyra aboard, Reed gave a short report to the officer in charge. "She's not just another refugee," he said. "She's something more. Her name's Lyra. Treat her with respect." The officer nodded uncertainly. "And the others?" Reed glanced toward the smugglers. "Let them go. They're no threat anymore." When the shuttle took off, Lyra opened her eyes. "Where are we going now?" she asked weakly. "To the main colony base," Reed said. "You'll get proper care there. And answers." She blinked slowly. "Will you stay?" He smiled faintly. "You'll have to get rid of me first." The base hospital was bright and sterile. Machines hummed softly. Reed stayed near her bed while doctors examined her blood. The results came back faster than anyone expected. A scientist entered, eyes wide. "Captain, the readings are impossible. Her cells produce regenerative energy. It's the same signature as the light-born species, but they were extinct for centuries." Lyra looked at her hands. "Then I'm the last one?" "Maybe not," Reed said. "Maybe you're the first of a new kind." The scientist hesitated, then added, "Captain, there's more. Our database shows a record, a woman with the same genetic pattern. She was part of a human research convoy, lost near the border 5 years ago. Her name was Sarah Vera." Lyra sat up. "That's my mother's name." Reed's heart lifted. "You see? She didn't leave you. She was taken." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. "She's alive?" "We can't be sure," the scientist said. "But her signal was last detected on the planet Iden in the outer rings." Reed turned to Lyra. "Then that's where we go next." She looked at him, surprised. "You'd come with me?" "Of course," he said. "You saved my life. I owe you a few more flights." She smiled through her tears. "Then let's find her." Days later, the ardent dawn lifted off again, repaired, shining under the twin suns. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, hands resting on the controls. Reed guided her fingers. "Gently," he said. "Let the ship move with you, not against you." She nodded, smiling. "Like breathing." "Exactly." They soared above the colony, leaving behind the desert that had tried to break them. The sky opened into deep blue, then into black. Stars spread before them, millions of tiny fires alive and waiting. Lyra looked out the window, her reflection glowing faintly against the glass. "Do you think my mother will recognize me?" Reed chuckled. "You light up like a small sun." "I don't think she'll miss you." She laughed softly. "And you? What will you do after?" Reed's gaze stayed on the stars. "Maybe stop running from ghosts." She looked at him gently. "You already did. You saved me." He said nothing for a while, but a small smile touched his lips. Maybe we saved each other. The navigation lights blinked green. Coordinates set for Iden. Reed reached for the throttle. "Ready, Lyra?" "Ready," she said. The engines roared. The ship leapt forward into the void. Behind them, the desert world faded to a bright dot among countless others. Ahead, the stars opened wide, endless, full of promise. Lyra watched them with wonder. She touched the wire bracelet still on her wrist, the last piece of her old life. She thought of her mother, of Reed, of the people she had healed. Maybe she wasn't just a girl sold for a bottle anymore. Maybe she was something else, a light that could never be bought or broken. Reed looked at her, his voice quiet but full of pride. You're not a mistake, Lyra. You're a miracle. She smiled, eyes glistening. Then let's go find the rest of me. The ship climbed higher, cutting through clouds and silence. The stars seemed to bow out of the way, and for the first time since her birth, Lyra didn't feel lost. She felt alive, free, and burning bright. In the endless dark of space, her light would never die.